locals and stuff about, kind of doing a climate check in the neighborhood.
Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah.
And a guy walked up with a suicide vest on and killed 5 of them on the spot. He walked up and he was strapped with ball bearings all around him with explosives, and it was just basically like a giant grenade.
Yeah.
And
grenade.
Killed 5 of them on the spot, but 2 of them were really good, close friends of mine. Their names were David Julian and Ernesto Cinerosti. And I had already lost a good friend named Gene Lemmy earlier in that same tour. So basically, where my career was advancing and I was real high speed and recognized and awarded, at that point my career just started really going downhill. I started...
That was the turning point for you?
That was the turning point. I started buying alcohol when I was out on missions, not fully focused on the mission or my troops. And leadership got into that, and so I lost my position there and started working, in headquarters instead of going out on missions, which sucks because it's boring.
Which is totally textbook PTSD.
Yeah.
PTSD is a tricky thing because people don't really know what it is.
Yeah. Well, in the Vietnam War, they used to call it shell shock.
Yeah.
Guys come up back with all these issues.
So when you're there and you're losing rank and you're doing everything, was there any kind of support for you, or was it just you're losing rank?
A little bit. Well, I didn't lose rank then. I kept my staff sergeant rank, but that was simply because of my work ethic prior to that. And recognition that, hey, this guy's not a dirtbag. He's going through a hard time.
Yeah. So
yeah, they got me some counseling and stuff, but it's all kind of temporary because after every tour, you come home and you got to go through this barrage of questions and paperwork and fill it out. And they're like, instead of like mandatory screening for anything, which I think there should be, there's like, hey, do you need help? Do you think you need to schedule?
And everyone says no.
Everybody says no. I'm home. I want to go on leave.
I got balls that fucking are this huge, and all I want to do is
I want to have sex
go
with
see
my wife.
my buddies.
I want to make more babies and go on vacation and drink my ass off. And just party.
I want to fucking go have
and chill
16 beers on the Hawaiian coast, right?
Yeah, because if there's one thing the soldiers do, they work hard and they play hard.
Yeah,
and my house just happened to be the party house.
So that's kind of like, if you were to make a change, it would be like go through an actual counselor.
But since you mentioned the PTSD though, things only got worse from that point.
Okay.
Because I at that point I had been at Fort Stewart, Georgia, which is the 3rd Infantry Division, for 10 years.
Yeah.
And deploying as many times, the 5 times that I told you, nonstop. Every other year I was going somewhere. And even in Bosnia, I had to guard mass grave sites where during the fighting, the Serbs came in and they killed off all these Muslims, and they would bury women, men, and children in these mass grave sites, and we had to stand guard while they dig up these bodies, and they got all these family members around crying, trying to identify people. So that was hard enough on itself. Skip back to where we are now. I've been to Fort Stewart, Georgia for 10 years. I get orders to go to Fort Knox, Kentucky to be an instructor, where I trained lieutenants who had just been freshly commissioned, not too far out of college. So it's basically like their grad school for the military.
Mm-hmm.
They had to pass me and my team at Fort Knox before they could go out and lead platoons in combat or whatever, So I did that for a couple of years, and the whole time I'm just self-medicating by drinking mass amounts of alcohol when I wasn't working. Oftentimes while I was working.
Yeah.
Because I just didn't care,
Yeah.
And so eventually they caught up to me, got me in trouble, and then I did lose some rank. They busted me from staff sergeant to sergeant, and they put me, I was talking to a psychiatrist, and I said, look, things aren't looking good. They're talking about kicking me out and this and that. And he looked at my record and he listened to me talk over several sessions, and he said, no, they are not going to kick you out. I have the authority to medically retire you with PTSD because you clearly have it. And so that was a saving grace right there for my future and the lifestyle I still have today.
Yeah.
Because I'm able to, they retired me at 90%, and I'm able to pay all my bills and take care of my family, and I still don't work because it's not easy for people.
No, but it still affects you to this day.
It does, and that's why I'm at 90%, because they view it as you don't have the capacity to go out in the civilian sector and work with civilians after the things you've been through. So,
yeah.
So that's where I'm at now.
And like that's what one of the things that I don't want to act like we're passing judgment or shit, but living across the street from me for 5 years the way I did, the first time I met you was a 4th of July.
Right.
And I think you were pretty drunk.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
At that time.
I'm sure I was.
And you were freaking out because of the fireworks and shit going off, and we're totally. And I had a bunch of family over, and you came up to me scared as shit, and I could tell you were scared as shit.
Yeah.
But you had a sidearm on you, and you kept on asking, "Can I go and use the bathroom? Can I go and use the bathroom?" And I don't know you for dick. I just moved in,
right.
and I was like, "You live right there.
Yeah.
Can you use your own?"
Yeah.
No, I'm locked out. I can't get in there yet. And so I was able. I asked you, give me a sidearm because there's a bunch of kids in the house,
right.
And it's just for the family. And you totally gave it to me, and you were courteous and nice and everything.
Right.
But at that moment, I knew. Obviously, I'm dealing with something, there's a unique individual here that has some specific issues.
Yeah, exactly.
So at first, it was always he's that guy.
Yeah.
It started off our relationship started off as you're that guy.
He's that war veteran.
Yeah.
He's that combat veteran.
Which I have total sympathy for, but what can I do? Yada, yada, yada. And then as we get to know each other over the last few years.
You're a family man, and you're like...
Yeah, well, we had no kids at the time, but I just had...
You got to look out for your family,
Yeah.
Like I said, you didn't know me from anything.
It was... that's why I was so glad for you to come over to do this, because I know that you and I are both going to get to know each other so much better just by having an intense conversation for now.
Right,
absolutely. But that was like that for me was my first impression of you, and it was like, holy fuck. And, I know how it goes. There's different shit that happens, and you're on and off again. I know with... so, as far as, so you're medically... Retired.
Yeah.
From Army?
Yeah, Army.
Yep. What is post-treatment? Is there any post-treatment? What do they do for you?
Yeah, I've actually gone through, over the last few years, I've gone through lots of treatment for not only PTSD, but I've always been what's called a dual diagnosis program, and that's dealing with PTSD and the alcoholism that goes along with it.
Yeah.
Because really, the truth be told, the first traumatic event I ever experienced was when I was a kid, and I was 11 years old, and my big brother killed himself with a 38 special.
Shit.
Yeah, or what's it called? 30? No, was it 79 special? I can't remember what the pistol was. Anyway, I think it was a 38. It was a 38.
38. Okay.
So he was 21. I was 11 years old, but he was like my hero. He was my big brother, and I looked up to him. And
you're 10 years younger than your...
Yeah, because my dad had been previously married.
Gotcha.
But the way he was with me and my younger siblings you would never know that we were half brothers.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? He was
right there.
He was our hero.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he killed himself for reasons still unknown. But and that is when by the time I was 12 years old, I was drinking, smoking weed, and having sex, all as a way
is that a to
self-medicate.
Were you way outside the norm because I know I don't know how populated your town of Wyoming was.
It's scarcely populated. I was.
You're out in the sticks because I know a lot of times out in the sticks that's not necessarily an odd thing.
Yeah,
a lot of kids are.
Yeah, I was excessive.
You were okay.
Yeah, I was.
You had buddies who were doing it,
and I didn't
not as much as you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I didn't know why I was doing it. I just knew that it made me feel better.
Gotcha.
So I was hurt.
So you
I
were
was
seeking.
So
you
bad.
were the instigator. You get all your other friends to do it too.
Yeah. Well, really, I really wasn't a peer pressure type. I did.
This is what I'm going to do.
I did most of that on my own with a few buddies. But even the sexual activity. I mean, by 12 years old, I hadn't even hit puberty yet. But I was sexually active. I just think it made me feel better. I didn't care.
Yeah.
It's temporary, and and I just kept going with it all my life. Into my adult years, I ended up being what they call a sex addict, an alcoholic, and a drug addict. You know what I mean? So
Gotcha.
Anything that can make me feel better and make me forget about my pain for a little bit is what I did.
Give me a second.
So fast forward, I go through all these traumatic events in combat. You know, see buddies get killed. I killed a lot of people. I almost got killed myself several times, and that just increased everything. It was like a multiplier for the trauma I had already experienced. So I just, even while I was married, I continued to sleep with other women, drink excessive amounts of alcohol, do whatever drugs, and mostly marijuana. But it was a recipe for disaster, and it all caught up to me. So I go through these treatments. I've been in 3 inpatient treatment facilities, and I've done outpatient programs, and to this day I still go to counseling from time to time.
Yeah.
And fortunately I have a wife that was able to look past all the mistakes I made towards her, you know, all the bad things I did to her, because she knew I was in a bad place because I was hurting so bad. You know what I mean?
Well, that's just a part of love and accepting. I mean, it's when you're the recipient of that, it's hard to accept.
Yeah.
That's just, you know.
Yeah. And
it's why would you love me? Why are you still here?
Yeah, and she has her days. You know, she has plenty of days where she gets upset about, you know, married people argue.
Yeah, believe me, I know.
I get some of those mistakes I made thrown in my face, and I just kind of got to suck it up and try to drive on.
That's all you can do, right?
Because it's understandable. It's like, well, you know, thankfully for me, I probably married the only woman that would ever put up with that and stay with me and forgive me and love me, and she gives most of that to her faith in God. So she said marriage is forever and forgiveness is eternal, and here we are.
Did you guys? I know obviously you said you have a stepbrother and stuff, but
well, not step, half brother.
Half brother, yeah, half brother. Right. So, are your mom and dad still together?
Oh yeah.
And I know Carly lost her dad.
Yeah, she lost her dad, but they stayed married as well.
Stayed married up until you're a weird example, like I am, and my wife is. It's so weird to have this day and age.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
To be, you know, in our 40s, 30s, and 40s, that you have parents that are still together. She had parents like that's the way I always describe it.
And good for us. Well, here's the thing too: is when we got married over 17 years ago, I never planned on getting married anyway, but I found her, and one thing led to another.
I think we're guys.
Yeah, I was like, I was fully committed to not getting married.
That's my entire 20s was fuck this shit. I'm never getting married. I'm never having kids.
I met her, and one thing led to another, and one day she told me she loved me. I said, I love you too. She said, no, you don't have to say that. I'm telling you because I actually love you. And I said, no, I do. I love you too. You know. And so we got married. We'd only been together 4.5 months.
Oh,
but
shit.
One of the only reasons I married her is because even though it wasn't like a prime example of what somebody of my faith should be back then, I knew that if for any reason I was going to get married, I was only going to marry somebody who had the same faith base in God that I do, because I was raised in the church and she was raised in the church. Her dad was actually a pastor back in the day. He went away from that and got back into construction, but we had the same beliefs.
Jesus was a carpenter too.
Yeah, exactly. So we had the same belief system. Our parents had the same belief system, so it all just fell into place.
Is Carly from around here, or is she?
She is. She actually grew up in Everett, and she graduated high school in Lake Stevens. So were you ever based in this area? How'd you meet? No, that's a funny story too, because her whole family grew up here. I mean, she was from here. Her grandparents are from here and everything. I grew up in Wyoming, ended up stationed at Fort Stewart,